This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Today I'm going to take you to a room, but do not be alarmed. It is transparent and safe, even though I can do whatever I want.
Oh no!
In this room, I can switch your soul with a hamster or put your butt where your nose is. Anything is possible in this room. Of course, there are some limitations like my imagination, because even stamina at this point can be overcome with willpower. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. We are getting deeper and deeper into the final saga of One Piece, and with the reveal of our friendly neighborhood clown Buggy and him becoming a Yonko, we then ask ourselves, how did this happen? It was actually due to his faithful henchman creating the best ad ever and spreading it out there to the entire world. Damn, I wish I could get a hold of him, but sounds like they really know how to run a business, and I'm sure if they were in our world, they would use today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace gives people a powerful and beautiful online platform from which to create your website, connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content, manage your members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights all on one easy-to-use platform. Create a community on your Squarespace website with a fully integrated commenting system that supports threaded comments, replies, and likes. Use their powerful blogging tools to categorize, share, and schedule your posts as well. Extend Squarespace's already powerful e-commerce capabilities with Squarespace extensions. These new third-party tools can help you manage inventory, promote products, streamline bookkeeping, reconcile and file sales tax, and ship items across the globe. Display posts from your social profiles on your website, automatically push website content to your favorite social media channels so your followers can share it too. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/B.D.A. law to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So don't wait, guys, sign up for Squarespace today. Oh yeah, if you haven't guessed it, this isn't a Jeffrey Dahmer anime spin-off, but rather a breakdown of arguably, wait, is that even arguable? The most versatile fruit in One Piece, but arguably the most powerful devil fruit in One Piece. I know Cretans typically think of destruction and big explosive wave things, and it can't really do that, but I'm a Rurouni Kenshin fan, or I really like precise swordsmanship, and so precision is much more valuable to me as opposed to growing large and using Megazords. So this is why Law's fruit is the perfect fruit to break down, as there are several questions as to how it works. We've just endured 4 years of Wano, and Law's fruit and abilities were a mainstay, but the most questions came from his awakening. How does it work? And is Oda just making things up? Does this actually make sense? Can Law shambles Kaido with the moon? Well, all your answers are here, but to answer the last one, no, Law cannot shambles Kaido with the moon. Unless his room is big enough, then we have a conversation. But first off, for this to be understood, we have to refresh your minds with the basic operations of Law's devil fruit. As we know, Law is a paramecia, and it allows the user to control and modify objects within a space as if it was in an operating room, hence my tangent earlier. The prerequisite to using the abilities as stated is being within a room, so before any technique, a room is generated, which is a sphere varying in size. The main operating abilities include Amputate, which allows him to cut an object without causing any harm, and to be honest, this would be perfect for cops to use because it does incapacitate you. Tangent, okay. Shambles, that's the next thing, and this allows him to swap the locations of any object, including souls, diseases, or any intangible objects. This is low-key absurd in its own right, but these are somewhat standard abilities used by Law. Granted, the soul swapping was not necessarily lauded on the same level as the eternal youth surgery, but it was a cut above the rest. However, so far, there hasn't seemed to be any limitations in regards to the soul swapping. We then moved to Tact, which made Smoker and his minions realize this room was clearly too big for them. Tact is Law levitating and moving objects by almost using telekinesis. Even a full-sized Navy battleship was swung around using his finger. How powerful is this finger? Scan. This is the inspection of people similar to an x-ray machine to find things on people. If only I had this back in middle school when my nerds mysteriously turned up missing. Anyway, injection shot, that's next. And that's a thrust attack that pushes the target back once it connects. And that was a prominent attack used against Doflamingo and even Kaido. Counter shock is basically just an electric strike, and Gamma Knife is making an electric light blade that damages the target's vital organs when stabbed. Then we get some juicy stuff like Scalpel or Mess, and that's Law striking his opponent's chest with his bare hands to expel their heart, and I'm pretty sure he could do that to any body part, so he could take your appendix just because. And quick tangent, this is one of the reasons why I adored Law, because he reminded me of one of my favorite Hunter x Hunter characters. He's so lovable. I mean, can you guess which one? If you did, well, you gotta subscribe now, because guess who has your heart now? Okay, anyway, curtain. This is really Law's only quote-unquote defensive technique, which is almost placing a transparent veil of protection against attacks or somewhat of a surgical draping. It's unknown if this is a one-time effect or it bolsters defensive capabilities for a period of time, but this made me think of something I saw recently where someone tried to determine how many devil fruits could Law mimic from just using his fruit. We have the awakening techniques coming up next, so you can hold off, but get your list ready as to all the fruits combined in this one OP nightmare. Now, before the awakenings, we got to talk about some of Law's limitations. The first and most obvious is that these abilities cannot be performed outside of the room. That's with an asterisk. Next, the room is stationary, and I joked about willpower being able to overcome it because he said he had 1 or 2 and he spammed it 14 times. But for the most part, this is one of the few devil fruits in which stamina is regularly mentioned, pretty much as a mainstay along with Blue Nose and even Kaido's to a much lesser extent, because Kaido fought the world while holding up an island, but Oda did imply there was a limit to it. Even Doflamingo used Birdcage and there was never mention of him being tired because of it. It seemed like he could go forever. The next thing we're going to do though is categorize the OP no Mi's abilities into 2 groups: physical or alteration attacks. Physical, this causes harm to objects. Alteration, it affects the object without causing damage. Got it? So, with now having a basic understanding of Law's fruit, we get to some of the more broken and devastating aspects which we mostly learned in his fight versus Big Mom. So here are some of the rules with Law's awakening, beginning with K-Room, in which Law coats a weapon with a room. After coating said weapon with a room, the first technique using this ability is anesthesia, which allows the user to pierce an object without causing damage. This is shown versus Big Mom, and the objective here is more than likely to pierce her and bypass her astounding defensive capabilities to set up for another major attack, which he followed up with Shock Willy. And this is when a shockwave is sent from within the object pierced by the room-coated weapon. After that, it takes us to Puncture Willy, which is a significantly more powerful Shock Willy, which was also used as a follow-up to Anesthesia versus Big Mom. Yes, I know Shock Willy, Puncture Willy, you can pronounce them as Vil in different ways, but there's so much dissension or different ways. We're just gonna say Willy for now, okay? Plus, it's funnier. Now, something to keep in mind is with Puncture Willy, the size of Law's blade increased drastically. However, that does not go against the initial rules of the fruit. Within the regular confines of Law's fruit, yes, you must operate within the room and Law can manipulate things within that room, but with K-Room, which is used as a precursor with anesthesia, Law is effective using that blade as a conduit to his initially stated rules. So Law, from being able to manipulate whatever is inside his room to manipulating this blade coated with his room in any way. So technically the rules still apply. Now, re-room is another technique where the user can send a room at a target and is able to perform techniques outside of the room. This is another way of Law manipulating the laws of the room. The rules of the fruit is that he can do anything within the room. It does not state that he has to be in it. Now, this, for whatever reason, makes me think of Dofi, my favorite character, and whether or not he had to be in the birdcage after it was erected. Doesn't seem that way, as it was done so from a clone, but wouldn't it have been glorious to see Dofi from the outside watching everyone scurry around in the cage attempting to stop it like little birdies in a trap? No, just me? Okay. So to clarify and to break down how this works, Paramecia Devil Fruit Awakenings allow the user to extend their abilities outside of themselves. Dofi, as mentioned, turns the environment to string. Katakuri turns the environment to mochi. Kid turns the environment or people around him to magnets. And the OP no Mi's Awakening, which is meant to bolster this fruit, removes 2 of the fruit's biggest limitations. 1, the user not being able to perform abilities outside of the room. Law can silence and amputate using Re-Room, as shown versus Big Mom and even Blackbeard. Some may not have noticed Re-Room was being used in this case. Law is also able to use Shock Willy and Puncture Willy outside with K-Room, using the manipulation of the weapon or blade instead, as mentioned earlier. 2, the next limitation, the room being stationary. Re-Room followed Big Mom as she was falling down the hole in Onigashima, rendering her incapable of calling out to her homies. K-Room follows the blade of Law's sword as he moves before the use of his awakening abilities. Along with that, the Fruit Awakening also increases the drawbacks of the last limitation, the user depleting stamina. But the higher the risk, the higher the reward. But to sum it all up, the OP no Mi's Awakening allows the user to operate a room without physically being in it. The rooms generated when awakened move with the target object, and this is merely conjecture, but what makes the most sense in regards to the meanings with K-Room equals Knife Room. Law labels some of his sword-related techniques with knife, like Radio Knife and Gamma Knife, and it does allow the user to do the same effects as the physical attacks without being in a room. Shock Willy and Puncture Willy cause internal damage, same as Gamma Knife, but on a much larger scale. Re-room, that equals to remote room. The user is able to remotely use alteration attacks on objects within a room. We see law amputate stronger outside of the room, and K-room seems to be a more streamlined way to use physical harm and attacks, while re-room is a more streamlined method of altering the properties of desired targets. So with this, you guys should understand Law's Awakening now better than most. And of course, this breakdown could not have been possible without my guy at Dr_Farewell on Twitter. Some more breakdowns over there if you want to check them out. If you learned something here, you can definitely subscribe and drop a like because more on the way in regards to hockey, etc. Also, did you guys figure out a list of devil fruits that Law's one fruit can do? Leave those below as well. And the video on the screen is my first Law video. How much do you think I improved?